Hello there, Wesley Smith here, and welcome to the Long Lost Shows show. Great to have your company once again. Well, as they say, for something completely different, a show about things you can't see because they've all been wiped. Well, almost all. Fortunately, groups like Kaleidoscope, based here in the Midlands, do try to find them again, and our first guest is someone who's had some considerable success with that. He's Ray Langston, who is back on the show with us again.
Hello again.
Good to see you again. Thank you for coming back, Ray.
Indeed, thank you.
I'd like to focus to start on British TV that was missing from these shores, but actually exists overseas, and you've had some success there, haven't you?
Yeah, the most notable is an episode of Around the World with Orson Welles. Now, you're too young to remember, and surprisingly so am I, but back in 1955, 60 years ago when ITV started, they signed the notable American actor, director Orson Welles to do some travelogues around Europe. Wow. Did 7 episodes of this show, and 6 of them were retained. One of them went AWOL. I'd never heard of this show, and my knowledge of Orson Welles, I've got to say, is somewhere between nil and scanty. I just remember him being a rather, shall we say, rotund figure.
Yes. Larger than life.
Larger than life. I don't mean to be rude about the man, but quite a large figure with a resonant voice who did adverts about sherry, and that's all I knew. I knew nothing. I'm now getting to know his work slowly, frankly. And I was online looking for stuff, and something came up. It said BBC Around the World with Orson Welles, and it said BBC
right
on an online search engine. Turns up it's the Wisconsin Historical Society. It's not a BBC programme, it's a rediffusion ITV show. And they had 2 episodes, one of which was the missing one. Oh. And I let the Orson Welles WellsNet forum know about this, and I put it on the missing episodes forum. I went very public, as is my way, not being shy of these things. And lo and behold, we have
here it is,
now released on Blu-ray and DVD, Around the World with Orson Welles, including the show that I found.
Was it a filmed show then, or was it?
Yes, it was filmed. Right. And you actually see Orson Welles' cameras being set up on the Revisiting Vienna episode, which is the one there. And the company who released this were good enough to actually send me a copy in advance, which was very nice of them.
So was that connected with the Third Man then?
Well, yes. The alternative title of it is The Third Man Returns to Vienna. It's actually called Revisiting Vienna, but it's always been known as The Third Man Returns to Vienna. And
what a
Orson, it's a great episode. I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't watched it. Just buy the DVD. It's.
What, did you get a cut of that?
I wish I got a cut. I really do. I wish I got a cut of anything I found. I've never really pretty much earned from my hobby, which is a shame because the BBC should hire me. I'm telling you, BBC, if you're watching, hire me. No, seriously, hire me. I could find 300 hours minimum.
Well, there you go. There's a challenge, isn't it? So have you had any interest with closer to home then, the British archives?
There's an archive on these islands, I won't say which one. I found a show in a university in Scotland, without revealing what television company I was speaking to afterwards. And in the early days, I'd sometimes ring the broadcasters up and get in touch with the archiving people, and you have a mix of people who are very interested in what you found and people who couldn't give a monkey's elbow, I think is as polite as I can get. And I found missing film from the very early 80s, which was broadcast by a UK broadcaster. I phoned up their archive department, which is programme sales, and I said, I found this show, I know where it is, would you like a copy? I can get this arranged, because, you know, they had that facility at where I found it. Oh, you can't buy the show? I've just looked it up in the database, we don't have it. No, you don't understand me. I found the show, would you like a copy? You can't buy the show.
Oh, for goodness sake.
No, would you like a copy of it? You cannot buy the show, right? And it was like that, and it was toe curling. Luckily, I spoke to somebody else a few weeks later when I'd calmed down, and they know where a copy is, and they've actually had a return from me of, or rather from a contact, of Simple Minds, I think, first TV appearance. So
doesn't that show a kind of disconnect then, that there are some people who kind of just actually don't quite
there's some people
get the whole...
there's another famous one you've
And that's why
reminded me
things
of.
were wiped.
A well-known independent television archive holder who now hold the rights to a well-known channel did this big thing about, we've been making good quality television for 40 years. And the big thing was a big budget programme that they put on air in 1968 when a lot of the franchise changed at ITV, and it was their first year. And they wiped the show. A very, I would say, slightly dusty copy of it is retained and was on YouTube. And I found this and I got in touch with them and I said, I think you've done some false advertising because you haven't got this show you've been talking about that you put in your brochures to the industry, and you've been saying we've made good quality television for 45 years and you haven't got this. Oh, we have, yeah? Check it out. And the guy went back on, he said, oh, can you get us a copy over? Well, a copy's actually gone back to Kaleidoscope rather than the broadcaster. It'll definitely be kept, and secondly, I kind of have my doubts whether they'd look after it, frankly, because some of the archive holders don't, sadly.
Often it's a case of not having space, isn't it, or moving to new buildings,
well, there's that,
or
but
the cost of digitising and changing things over.
Apparently, there are the majority of the episodes of The Big Breakfast are actually missing. Now that ran in the 90s and the 2000s, and you've got Chris Evans, who's still in vogue today, and people, you know, from the age of, you know, it was still going in the 2000s, so there were teenagers who just about remember the show, you know.
That's the kind of thing
and
people are liking.
It's been wiped because it changed hands and nobody bothered. British Satellite Broadcasting is another.
Yeah.
So it's not just ancient things, there are still shows being wiped today. But, you know...
The Big Breakfast is something that people actually may have on
there are copies being turning up on video. But I don't like anything being missing. I want to find it. Well, music is the main passion, but if I can find something else, and like I said, the Awesome Worlds thing is one of the things I'm best known for. And sometimes broadcasters don't know that they've got something missing in the archives. Going back to music, Jerry Rafferty, when he passed on sadly from my adopted country of Scotland, they showed an obituary for him on the news, as I'm glad they did, and there was a clip on it, and my pal Lawrence Piper spotted that the background of one of the clips looked like Top of the Pops. And I was like, really? But they wiped the edition for Stuck in the Middle with You. I got in touch with BBC Archiving. They confirmed it was on the back of a copy tape, of all things. It was the only clip from the show that existed. And lo and behold, when I had a meeting with BBC 4 in 2012, they actually went on to show the clip as I asked on Big Hits 64, 75 on BBC 4. So I was rather happy with that, and it's a good performance as
Someone
well.
was listening.
Yes, the BBC do listen, which is good. They don't always do what you want, but they do listen, to be fair. Yeah. I had my meeting with them. I do speak to them fairly regularly, several times a year. In fact, if you include by email, it's at least every month. And they do listen, very polite and quick to respond. Some archive holders are, some aren't. I've had one archive holder overseas be rude to me, outwardly rude. But most people are actually very good and very pleased to help. And another story I've got is I found a lot of ex-BBC and ITV agricultural programmes. Now, without dissing farmers here, or any of their friends and acquaintances, I have no interest in this at all. Farming, maybe my grandfather, but as regards me, no interest. One of these was Pig Farming Today. Okay, the complete series of Pig Farming Today, shown in 1966 and 67. Wow. I have no interest. I put it on the missing episodes forum. Yeah, this is over here. It's in Hereford or wherever it was. And I got 2 emails in, or messages in, from people thanking me for this. And I'm like, okay, it's Pig Farming Today. What? The first one was a pig farmer. Okay, he said, you know, it was the first thing about, okay, well, good for you, glad you're happy. Each their own. Bear in mind I'm vegetarian as well, which is twice I've mentioned this on this show. And secondly, I had an email from a Doctor Who fan. A Doctor Who fan. I'm like, you guys do your stuff with the Daleks and the TARDIS and your plastic monsters, yeah, whatever. You look for your stuff. If I find anything, fine, but it's not really my bag. But good, you know. Why are you interested in pig farming today? Radiophonic Workshop. They did the music. Oh. Now, how, I do not know. Pigs and the Radiophonic Workshop, I haven't heard the show, I haven't watched it. It's just everyone knows where it is.
You know, get more people watching it.
It's very bizarre, but I'm glad I made a few people happy, which is the whole point of doing these things. You know?
I mean, we have Countryfile now and Countrywise, various programs, but they're not the same as the farming programs that most of the regions did.
And most of which are what I did find a farming show at Southern Broadcasted, Farm
Progress.
Farm Progress, that was the one. That was a YouTube find, so I wasn't probably the first one to spot it.
That programme was made in Dover, at the Dover studios at Southern Television.
1980, wasn't it?
That would have been towards the end of its
end of the franchise.
Yeah.
YouTube's very handy. There was a Beatles find recently, which I spotted the same time as a very good Beatles researcher called Roger Stormo, who's based in Norway. And it's 8mm footage, home footage of the Beatles doing inserts of Can't Buy Me Love and You Can't Do That.
What, recorded off the telly or in a studio?
Recorded off the telly. Now, the quality on YouTube is below even normal quality of YouTube. It's very grainy. It was silent. I've had someone dub it. More than one person has tried as well. And the efforts are okay. But apparently, the 8mm footage is better than it looks on YouTube because A, it would be slightly better anyway. And secondly, because they projected it onto a blank wall. So what you're watching is YouTube of an 8mm shown on a blank wall, so it's going to be grainy anyway. Right. But I have put these in touch with a colleague of mine to get the footage back, because there's enough I'm doing already, and I have to, although I'm not a boss or anything, sometimes I have to delegate stuff. The other thing is you need to know your limitations and go, look, I've done all this, I need to get other people involved, and there's several people on the forum and beyond who look for footage as well, as long as a lot of contacts I've made and over the years, like Gary Jordan, who's been doing it longer than me, to be fair. You've got people on the Missing Episodes forum. There's a guy called John Green who finds a lot of stuff, and there's another one called Simon Morby, and they do a lot of good work, and I need other people to do this. I can't find stuff on my own. Kaleidoscope can't find stuff on their own. We need more people to do it. There's never enough.
Are you doing this for people, say, in 100 years from now?
I'm doing it for people now, in 10 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now. It's history, it's important now, it's always important. But this is moving visual history. You know, this is a record of what somebody was doing. To me, with respect, you know, Egyptian pots don't excite me. It's a pot, great. It's 2,000 years old, great.
But if it was a programme made in the 60s that had been missing about Egyptian pots, you might like it.
I can relate to it more, yeah? I probably wouldn't want to watch that, but, you know, if it's lost and it gets found, it's also pleasing people. There's that element of it. And it's also, I don't think I'm very good at anything, really, apart from this. For some reason, finding stuff on YouTube, which is basically pointing, going, look, it's over there, which is what I do, or in a foreign archive, look, it's over there. Can
it lead you astray, YouTube? I mean, do you find that the same clips are maybe on once or twice, but
yes,
different things?
It can do, but on an average, you know, 2 or 3 days looking, I will find something. You know, it may have no interest to me personally, something I wouldn't want to watch, but a lot of the time, it does have interest. Music has more, obviously, it has more interest, but I'd like to find more drama and comedy, to be honest with you, but I seem to find more music clips. Following that, it would be children's shows, of all things. A lot of wiped little bits of everything in between, you know, a lot of, you know, swap shops and Saturday picture shows and all the Saturday morning
They all come
TV.
together.
But you find other stuff as well.
Sure.
And
Well, listen, you mentioned Gary a short time ago. When we come back after this break, we're going to have a nice chat with him as well. So don't go away. We're back right after this here on Big Centre TV. Hello again, welcome back to the Long Lost Shows show. Still to come, we will have our regular debate where three heads will get together, and I'll kind of chip in as well with some great TV memories. But before that, some even more rare memories from Gary Jordan, who's our TV researcher from Birmingham. Bartley Green,
Yep.
Nechells, born and bred.
Yep.
Good to have you with us again. I know that you've spent quite a lot of time at this French archive,
Yeah.
INA. Tell us what that is and what you found there.
INA is the French National Archive. Obviously, like with all the French regions, a bit like the UK, like with the ITV regions. There's so many different broadcasters, and like, the French was actually perfect at keeping most of their stuff.
Interesting. Wonder why. Maybe there's the value of that. And so they've got British programmes in their archive.
Yes, yeah.
What did
Because
you find?
obviously the UK broadcasters used to sell the programmes to like French companies. And again, what they were supposed to do was actually send the tapes back or wipe them and or destroy them in some instances, which did happen. But a lot of the broadcasters actually kept the tapes, and these are now the only copies in the world.
That's amazing. What's your earliest TV memory?
That was Pinky and Perky,
Yeah. On the
believe it or not.
Because where I'm going with this is, I wonder, is that available anywhere? Because presumably lots of those disappeared as well.
I should imagine loads of them do no longer exist.
Yeah.
But I haven't looked into that.
Oh, you've got to look for that. You've got to look for Pinky and Perky.
Yeah, but I specialise in music.
Well, they did all the big hits, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, yeah. But like, I specialise in music, but I found myself diversing now
Yeah.
into finding anything of interest, drama, comedy, like you name it. It's there somewhere. It's just a question of finding it.
Now, you appeared on the telly yourself, didn't you?
Yes, way back in 1971
What was that?
on ATV Today. Our school choir, Cromwell Street in Nechells. Glyn Edwards actually come down to the school and done some filming like of the choir. And then Christmas 1971, we was actually invited to do the Christmas edition of ATV Today,
Brilliant.
which no longer exists, unfortunately.
So you've never seen a copy
I've never
of that?
seen
now?
a copy of that.
No. This is the point in the show where I should say, well, actually, you thought it was missing and lift it up on the tape, but sadly that is not going to happen.
That would be brilliant. Because I had long hair down here.
Did you?
I was only 10.
Oh, singing sweetly.
Yeah.
What was it like going in the studio then?
Oh,
as a 10-year-old?
it was mind-blowing for 11-year-old. Absolutely marvellous. And like we actually got to watch the recording before it went out in the amphitheatre.
Oh,
At the old Broad Street.
I do indeed.
You know that.
Very well, yes.
Yeah.
I remember being just as excited when I started working there when I was a 20-something. So yeah, I totally relate to that. And of course, it's that's all flat.
Yeah,
now.
it's gone.
But you were on some film as well, and that does exist at the at MACE, the Media Archive of Central England.
Yeah, I did make inquiries about 10 years ago, but obviously I couldn't afford it at the time.
Right.
And with social media now, school pages have been set up, and somebody actually inquired. One of my old school friends who had lost contact with like 40 odd years ago actually put it up on the site. I was on ATV Today.
Yeah.
Does anybody know if the film exists?
Right.
And of course I was able to answer, yes it does.
Yeah. You have to have a whip round then.
Yeah, yeah. A good
great.
idea.
Yeah.
Like that.
I know one of the issues that certainly you discovered at the INA was the problems with mislabelling of archives, making it difficult.
Oh, it's a nightmare with foreign archives, because obviously the spelling difference. I mean, I was doing some research for Junior Campbell out of Marmalade over in France. Putting Marmalade into the search engine, you come up with nothing. Simply because they spelt marmalade with an E instead of an A.
Marmalade.
Yeah, and like then all the appearances started turning up then.
Right.
And I let Junior know, and he was over the moon. Especially like the lead singer Dean Ford. One promo that they filmed, which was lost, featured his 18-month-old daughter at the time, and of course, like it was lost.
Yeah.
They hadn't seen it for donkey's years, and like his daughter is now 41 years old.
Amazing. Is the audio quality of the music that you found up to scratch, or is it more
Yes.
for the video card?
Yeah.
Really?
It's up to scratch. Both the video, the visual, and the audio are broadcast quality.
Wow. So that's really quite a find, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really.
Because I'm able to sit there, like I said, I had no sleep for 3 hours, 3 days.
3 days.
3 days.
Yes.
Simply because I was able to watch the stuff.
Right. So it's
Because
all
it-
digitised.
It's all
and
digitised.
viewable. But you have to go to their centre to be able to watch it.
No, you can do it online.
You can do it
Yeah.
online.
But you have to be a bona fide researcher to gain access to it.
Right. So what are you going to do with all this research? You found the clips. I mean, would you do your own catalogue or write about it, or?
What I do, I let all the people know that these exist and where they are, and then it's up to them to actually acquire them. I can't acquire them because of the copyright. But with Junior Campbell, I let him know where they was, and he acquired them. Which like, you know, which is the whole idea of doing what I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, you know, the performers, like, you know, even some of the actors who I found footage of didn't know that exists.
Yeah.
And they're over the moon when they get it back.
Yeah. Because so much of TV was live anyway, live performances.
Yeah.
I guess people, you know, before we had videos, people couldn't really look back at themselves very
Yeah,
much.
precisely. Yeah.
It'd be quite an interesting learning thing to do, to be
Yeah.
able to do that, isn't it?
And like your previous guest, Ray, mentioned, it's our history. I want to see our history. You want to see it. The viewers maybe want to see it because they'll remember watching it at the time. And when you actually find something that's been missing, and you're able to watch it, it makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck, and it, like, you know, it's a great feeling to say, I've found this, I've got to return it. But I've found with some of the UK archives, they're simply not interested in getting it back.
Why is that, do you think?
It could be money. It could be for a variety of reasons.
Do you think it's perhaps an age thing, that if you weren't there, you're less keen to
Possibly,
kind of see
yes,
things back?
because like the media now these days is like, you know, is employed by youngsters mainly. You know, the big companies such as BBC and AT. Sorry,
It hasn't been ATV for quite a few years,
Central,
but we know what you mean.
like, you know,
And I guess that's the natural cycle, isn't it?
yeah,
People come
yeah,
up through
yeah.
the system.
through the ranks. Yeah.
Keeps it fresh, you know.
Yeah.
60 years of ITV now.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, what changes? Looking back at the old clips, be it music or other programmes, do you think those programmes were better then, or do you think they're better now?
No, definitely better then.
So why is that? Because technology wasn't as good, was it?
No, but
Black and white.
I think it's got a lot to do with nostalgia.
Yeah.
Like, you know, everybody wants to see this. It's like, say you was 8 at the time when you first heard the Beatles. wow, that's cracking. You seen them on TV, you went out and bought the record. That's what it was all about. That's why they went on TV programmes, so they can get to the masses.
And there were big audiences in those
Yeah.
days because there were fewer channels, of course.
Yeah,
and
of course,
you get
yeah,
regularly in excess of 20 million watching.
Yeah, 20 million watched Top of the Pops from 1970 onwards. You get, like, when Top of the Pops finished in 2009, sorry, 2007,
That, yeah.
the audience figures, the viewing figures, was actually 3 million.
Shows the difference in times, doesn't
The
it?
difference. And like,
Yeah.
you know, if it was still going today, it'd probably be 500,000. I mean, can anybody in this room tell me what number one is at the moment?
That's a really good question.
I ain't got a clue.
I'm with you on that
Yeah,
one. But you did know that,
But
didn't
you did know that
Weeks on end.
when Top of the Pops was there, because Top of the Pops played out with the number one.
Yeah,
So everybody knew what number one was.
yeah. Have you, when you look back at the BBC4 have been showing the old complete episodes of Top of the Pops, sometimes some of the songs were forgotten, actually. You see them again and it kind of comes back. But they're not all fantastic, are they?
Oh, no, not while
Better
I'm
to have selected highlights, perhaps.
Oh, dear. Like 1976. Oh,
Bad
the
year.
end of glam rock. I mean, like, you know, there was one, I think in 1977 edition, somebody come on with balloons. Ray will probably know that one. I can't remember it, but like, when I seen it, I was howling. It was really, like, you know,
That's a bit wrong.
really cheesy.
Yeah. And we had Grandad with Clive Dunn.
Yeah,
and all
Grandad,
sorts
yeah.
of things, didn't we?
Sitting there in his old rocking chair.
Yeah. But there again, it's breadth of appeal, I suppose. Family audiences and making music accessible to all. I guess we can't knock that, can we?
No, because everybody sat round the TV on a Thursday night at 7:30.
Yeah.
It's number one. It's Top of the Pops.
That's right. Well, listen, good luck with finding more clips, and I look forward to hearing what you find, because I suspect there are some great treasures out there.
Yeah,
And,
there
remember,
is.
of course, if you have any of them, do get in touch with us. Right, our big debate is here right after the break, so stay right where you are. Again, welcome back to the Long Lost Shows show. I'm Wesley Smith, and with us, academic, TV historian and entertainer, and all three of them love telly. It's Robert, David and Richard. Thank you for coming back to see us. We're going to talk in a few minutes about the value of repeats, whether or not we're bothered with repeats. But first, as we've been talking music in this show, I'd like to just touch on a couple of shows that didn't really get mentioned in any great detail previously. One that springs to mind first, Supersonic. Who remembers that?
I do. Supersonic, loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was great. It was Mike Mansfield produced it, and he made it look and sound exciting. It was a really good visual show as an alternative on ITV. It was one of his best, I thought.
I've never really seen it because I was too young to remember it, but the clips that I have seen, Mark Bolan and performances like that, you know, make me think that I'm missing out on something really exciting. And you know, it's a shame that this sort of stuff isn't shown on like a mainstream channel now, because a lot of that does exist in the archive, as we were discussing earlier.
I think often rights is a big issue, isn't it? And copyright and
Yeah,
payments.
it's going to be the problem, of course, I think, with the actual production itself. The who owns the rights to music, who owns the rights to the production, PRS licensing, performance licensing, even backing singers and things. It's going to be at a point where even to take that apart must be so convoluted to try and find who owns the copyright for each thing as well. So, especially if it was filmed multiple times, I'm guessing as well. So if
I
you're
think
going to be
that's the
doing
trouble with, you know, all of us who've been on here and talking about the music side of the shows. This is the thing, music is very complicated, because you see TV series on DVD, on TV, and then there's an announcement coming at the end of the series, coming out on DVD next week, like, why can't they do that with music? But I think it's all the rights issues are so complicated.
It's a
Visual
huge
and the
sticking
writing side, they're totally separate.
It's a huge sticking point, because a lot of the performers now they demand so much money for it, and the writers and of course everybody else involved with the songs, they have to be renegotiated.
I think that's probably why we haven't got a pop show like Top of the Pops on anymore, because I think the amount that's demanded or expected, or the payments that are expected for a show of that size, you have 7 or 8 acts on. It doesn't run into tens of thousands. It went into hundreds of thousands.
Payments weren't very high even back then. I mean, someone should know. I think actually, the artists, believe it or not, on Supersonic, I saw an interview and a figure once. I think they got. I think the artists on Supersonic used to sometimes pay to be on there, which the record company would pay for them to be on there, which was about £200 at the time. It sounded a lot back in 1975, but Top of the Pops, I think the standard fee, I think they pay the artists about, if it was a single artist, £45, and the band might get about £100 or £200.
I wonder how much Jockey Wilson got for unintentionally being on top of the Pops at one time.
Yeah,
I wonder
Jackie Wilson's Dexys Midnight Wonders.
Yeah, I wonder whether you got any money for unintentionally being the back projection on that.
There were certain agreements years ago also that if technical staff were seen in vision on a programme, then the technician also had to be paid. Say you're a camera operator working with a particular ITV company, I know, you got what was called an in-vision payment. And so they were quite popular.
So I think people on Tiswas got it quite well.
So that was why they used to try and sneak into shops so much.
I was wondering, you know, is that so? The actual, if you saw a cameraman or something, would they get?
There was an in-vision payment agreement which came about. Yes, perhaps as a result of that. That I'm not quite sure about. But interesting about technical, because on Supersonic you saw Mike Mansfield in the production gallery. That was the way of linking the show. There was no kind of star presenter on that, and it was in the TV production gallery. So from someone who loved telly from an early age to actually see the control room like that and see the director waving his hand and the whole show that went with that. That was a whole extra dimension to that show, which made it worth watching from my point of
After the
view.
rolling credits, the opening credits, rather, the camera used to pan straight in to the control room.
That's right.
And you'd see the 4 or 5 of them, cameras, 5, 6. And in fact, you said about the payments that, I don't know if they had an in-vision agreement on ITV, but the cameraman money there would be there. They'd be everywhere, running out the way of the artists, because some of the artists just went crazy on there. And the cameramen would be pulling the equipment out the way. Because they were big machines back then, and the wires and the cables, and yet, you know, but it was classic show.
And from one extreme perhaps to another, the Earl Grey Whistle Test, another show that was iconic. We haven't talked about that, and I guess it will
brilliant show.
And quite a lot of that isn't wiped, is it? That survives.
I believe some of the early stuff is wiped, some of the early, first series or so, but largely it survives.
Most of it survives. There was a list printed not long ago in a well-known record magazine, and it's pretty much there. There's lots of stuff. They did issue a free DVD set, the best.
That's right, I've got that.
About 10 years ago, but there's a lot more in there, and luckily when you do see repeats sometimes on BBC 4, they do include ones again that have never been included anywhere else, but there's a lot of stuff in there. They've got a lot of them.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of stuff that they could still release if they could get around the rights issues. I think that could be, like we said earlier, the major obstacle with that as well. It's interesting because I think to some extent the old Grey Whistle Test stands the test of time probably better than something like Top of the Pops, because Top of the Pops stuck rigidly to the charts. Whereas
it was maybe the audience was different in some ways, because we've been talking about pop shows being pop, being the fact that it was popular music, and Whistle Test had pop music on it. But it had other things, it had different streams and different ways of thinking, and it was on at a different time, and maybe the audience, the demographic was different as well. So
it was a late night film.
It was something maybe that...
There was no actual studio audience for the Old Grey Whistle Test. It was very sanitised. It was filmed, and some of the bands that came in from America loved it. They said, you know, there's 2 guys in white coats, the cameramen, they were all... Yes. And they always used to visit the BBC bar. But Pete Townsend gave a wonderful story about the Old Grey Whistle Test with the Musicians' Union. because the Who went on there once and they did a couple of songs, and the Who were a really loud, massive band, but the backing tracks had to be re-recorded with just a live vocal from Roger Daltrey. And Pete Townsend said once that they went in, followed by the Musicians Union guy. They got him a bit drunk and left him outside the room, and they're in there playing along to a completely different track. And all they did was just give him the tape for the original backing track, and then they go in. And they were doing that all the time, you know.
Yeah, that's mentioned on the film, isn't it, on the DVD? I'm sure.
Is it? I think it is.
Yeah.
That's where I saw it. Yeah. And they just used to get the Musician Union's guys drunk and then wander off to the bar and then come back, and he'd look through the glass and he'd be watching them strumming away. He couldn't tell what they were playing because he was probably classically trained anyway and didn't have any interest in pop music.
No. Serious music.
But I do have to say though, I do find it a bit puzzling that there are certain shows like Old Grey Whistle Test that are better represented in the archive than others, because that's a lot more better represented than Top of the Pops. And like Ready Steady Go and other shows. And the thing about the Old Grey Whistle Test was that it appealed to a different genre of music than those shows. So I'm wondering,
was it more of a connoisseur show, do you think?
Yeah.
It was more
Students
of a,
as well.
Yeah,
It was
it was
mainly
people that
a lot of
could go-
students used to watch it. It was mainly an albums-based show, actually, wasn't it? It was Top of the Pops represented the singles charts. The Old Grey Whistle Test was an albums-based show, mainly with album tracks, and if they didn't have the artists there, they would create a film, like Led Zeppelin's classic one, Physical Graffiti, a track off there. They created a film using old-time footage of dancers from the 1930s. I think it was Trampled Underfoot. And there was no audience, so of course you've got no feel of the time zone that it was done in. It was just basically the band. You might see the long hair and that, which gives an indication. But there was no studio audience either, so I think that's why. And it was more, it was for your older brother and sister to watch rather than the 13-year-old pop fan.
You could do an 8-minute set. You
Yes.
could do somebody doing prop stuff
Yeah.
that you probably couldn't get in for Top of the Pops. You could have somebody coming on and multiple keyboards going about and things like this.
Yeah.
I suppose it was
There is some classic stuff out there. Todd Rundgren has just had a CD and DVD set issued, and they got all the Old Grey Whistle Test on there, everything he ever did, and there's some fantastic way out. So, not my sort of music really, but still fantastic to watch because it's of its time again.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a funny thing on some other shows, isn't it, that the artists had to mime to their own pre-recorded tracks.
I thought that was fun though, I did, because they could show off
If they
more.
got it, or if they
They
got it
could
wrong.
show off more, you know, it's great.
I like to watch it and see which ones were the best and which ones were the worst. I mean, I do think some people managed to get it pretty spot on, and there was others that were completely off the mark with it.
It's quite hard to do, I think.
Yeah.
You'd think sometimes it would be easier just to sing it, wouldn't it, than trying to mime your own.
Yeah, there were also, I think there were union complications
Yeah.
with that as well, weren't there, to do with...
To miming your own song, it must be quite a skill up in itself. I would
I
think.
thought it was fun though for the artists that we were saying about earlier on, because like I think they always used to have an open mic. Don't get me wrong. I think there was always an open mic. The backing tracks were re-recorded for Top of the Pops, but I think you can hear Noddy Holder on the Christmas '73 December show when he goes to say it's Christmas at the end. He goes to grab the mic, and you can hear there's a vocal underneath, but he does another one on top. The mic was open, and it's the same. You can hear T-Rex when he's singing Metal Guru. Mark always forgot his own words, and he does one when Metal Guru's coming to an end. He's singing one line, but you can hear underneath the original line.
Really?
Yeah, there's a double-track vocal, and you can hear the difference. So they were live, but you know, at the same time, he could always sort of pose and do his thing. Yeah, it's great. I very often wanted to I'd love to have mine to my own records. I'd love to have done it.
I just said we could have organised it, but sorry, it's just a bit too late.
Too late now.
Yeah. Talking about you know, programmes we'd like to see again and reviewing things, some might say that we see the same programmes repeated again and again. Perhaps some more recent programmes again and again, rather than the old ones. Is there still a space for repeats, or really are we just, you know, just scraping the bottom of the barrel because we can't find new content? Are you happy to watch repeats?
We've seen Dale fall through the bar a lot, really a lot. he's fallen through that bar more often on TV than probably was intended, or running down the street as Batman, and it still gets a laugh. It's still a good thing. It wouldn't be repeated if it wasn't. But I think the archive of TV show, the amount of content that is out there, the amount that we actually get is very, very limited to the amount of stuff. Things like Red Dwarf aren't repeated that much. Blackadder is, but not that often. We get Dad's Army a lot, we get Porridge a lot, we get lots of classics, but things that maybe were huge at the time, not so much. So we wouldn't say, are you being served that often? I mean, people like UK Gold would maybe show it, but we don't get that as much as the Only Fools and Horses repeats, which are on again and again and again. So
actually, they have been running Are You Being Served and Hello Hello on BBC Two in the afternoons for the last few months. But like you say, they are funny, but they could dig out a lot more.
There's obscure shows. There's probably, I was using The Young Ones as an example, watching that back as a kid, living The Young Ones when it was on. It's not been on that often. Neither has Filthy Rich and Cat Flap, which is the one that was on afterwards, which was, again, it was the same same people that did it, but they were the same characters. It was a precursor to Bottom.
Right.
But not quite a sequel to Young Ones. But again, you can get that on DVD and you can find it on video, but you can't see that on TV. It doesn't seem to be on that much at all, so it's not really been around that often.
It's also edited on DVD as well, which is another nuisance, of course, because you've paid out the money for it to watch it, and it's edited. That's why, to some extent, there ought to be more variation in what they show in the repeats. There ought to be not so much more repeats of recent shows, but more repeats of what's available in the archive. I think that there's a lot of stuff in the archive that hasn't been tapped into. I think there's still a lot of stuff that's got to be brought back to the archive as well. Not just with music programmes, but with drama programmes as well, Doctor Who and things like that.
Again, we've never had Blake Seven on as a repeat, have we? Not in recent years, anyway. We've had Doctor Who.
Completely.
Yeah, we could sit out from the beginning of Blake Seven.
But
Yeah, I was surprised to see recently they've been showing Doctor at Large again, the comedy from the 70s, and it's on ITV3 in the afternoons.
It's on the buses and things. The same
On the buses,
Yeah,
that's a regular. That's been for a long. We all love on the buses still. That is still hugely entertaining. But Doctor at Large surprised me because I remember it in the dim and distant. But maybe it is more classic than I realised. But it doesn't jump out at me as being a show.
No.
But it's there, and so someone has obviously gone into the archive and thought, we'll have that out. That's easy to show.
When I think it was UK Gold first started, which I didn't have at the time, they actually ran a lot of archive pop shows like Supersonic, going back to the music side. But they actually ran a lot of classic archive music shows as well. That one included. Yeah, and they also showed things like the Mark shows, Arrows, the other band from the time, and Shang-a-Lang by the Basic Rollers.
that channel was absolutely superb.
Yeah,
when
what
it first
happened to it
started.
then? Because I didn't.
It just turned itself into a comedy channel, and it's ruined it. It's just ruined it. It's just concentrating just on the archive comedy now. When they had the music on there and the variety on there, it was a far better channel.
It was when we moved, probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, and things like On Digital appeared, and they had things like the Granada channels and the Granada Men and Motors and things, and they had like Will Tappers and Chunters clubs, which is because I was a little bit too young for that one. But you're watching it's aged very badly, but it was
taste,
but it was very, very unique to see. But it was
There's a girl comes on. I couldn't believe it. I got the DVDs of it. There's a girl comes on with just tassels on, you know where, swinging herself around and. Hang on, this is Sunday. I think it went out on Sunday nights, did it?
Did about 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was all those kind of shows were shown on Granada when they
Did they show all those as well?
It was, I mean, the bits I remember seeing and thinking it was wow, this is probably 30, 35 years old at the time. Obviously, the generation jump of what were you seeing was like wow. But of course, we were talking about this on one of the other shows. But people smoking, people drinking and smoking on TV. We don't see that anymore. We don't see people in a social environment. We don't see people in the club doing that. It was club entertainment on TV.
I mean, okay, that's historically interesting, but do we need to have the whole series shown again and watch it week after week?
No, but it's nice to have the ability to be able to see it somewhere we know it exists.
If the person wishes to see it,
Yeah.
it's nice to have the ability to do so. You know,
But it has to bring in the audiences, doesn't
That's
it?
it.
It has to
That's
pay.
good. There's a bit of commercial value to it.
In
isn't
fact,
it?
that's just because I was talking to someone yesterday. I mentioned about ITV tried their hand at doing like a Top the Pops 2 with the Pop Gold on ITV, and apparently it wasn't successful. The show that went out recently, and there was a delay. I think it was meant to be 8 or 10 shows. I can't remember the number, but show 8 or 10, whatever it was, eventually went out. A few months later, they put it out.
Is it like compilations?
Brilliant clips on there, absolutely brilliant. I think it might have been, I believe, Andy Kershaw's, who was the host, and I think that put a lot of people off. You didn't see him physically, but I think a lot of people complained about him. The advertisers were saying it wasn't working either. So I don't think people. You've got to be careful when you ask about archive. You know, again, it's this age thing. Yeah, I'll sit and watch it. But you can't expect someone 20 years old to take an interest. Oh my God, there's Elton John from 1973. You know, I was there recording it. But it's not going to appeal across the board, and the average person has got YouTube anyway, which I don't like, but I'd rather watch it on TV.
but surely if it is only to appeal to a niche market, that could be where something like an on-demand service could work.
If it's
idea.
there, it will sit gathering dust. It has no purpose apart from to be shown. And even if it's not, if it makes 10 pence or you know, it doesn't make any money at all. It's sitting on a shelf won't do anything. It doesn't allow people to see it.
That's right.
And even if it makes them a minimal amount of money, if it involves very little in the way of production, somebody somewhere might want it, and there's got to be value somewhere in even the most obscure TV shows.
Brilliant. Well, listen, on that point, I think we're all of one accord on that. Thank you again for coming to see us tonight. Join us again very soon for another show. Bye.
Oh, that was